Ziggy
Hello
off.
and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic. If you want to take part in the narrative, simply post your comments. We'll be happy to address them when relevant to our discussion. And you can help us be a voice here locally by liking and sharing our program. Please remember that if you are unwilling to govern yourselves, you will be governed by tyrants. You see, politics is, well, it's just not a fun topic. And for most people, it's a scary topic, actually. We're faced with a news media we can't trust. We're gaslighted about our own personal values. And if you're a conservative, you can actually be verbally or even personally attacked for your views. But the reality is we must take part in our own governance, which means being aware of what's happening around us. And today's guest is all about helping the average citizen become aware of what's happening in our community. So please welcome with me Vance Jochim of Fiscal Rangers. Vance, how are you this morning?
Hey, everybody.
Good. Before we get too far, let's say hi to Mike. So what's going on with you, Mike, today?
I'm sure we'll get into it. It's great to be with you, gentlemen.
I'm sure you will. So I have you at fiscalrangers.com. Now, you say you can be found on YouTube at Fiscal Rangers Florida, or is there a better way to look?
Just search on Fiscal Rangers. Generally, you'll
Chuck,
find it.
Sure.
I just looked up Vance on YouTube, and it's youtube.com/Fiscal Rangers Florida, spelled out, and that's it.
There you go. That's good. So, Vance, are you posting regularly on Facebook or YouTube?
I am not doing as much as I used to, but I'm gearing up to do more by using AI. Because it just gets to the point where I go to a lot of meetings, I make videos of meetings, and the edit process just kind of gets tiring after a while. So I'm streamlining the process and plan on adding more and more because there's too many things to ignore here in Lake County.
Yeah, I was wondering because Mike and I go live, flat out, no editing, because it just seems easier. It's got to be a real difficult thing to sit down and try to edit. Do you have a particular software that you use for editing?
I use the Adobe, not the big package, but the medium-sized package that's free. Or no, it's not free. It's about $80 a year.
Okay.
And yeah, it's got so many components to it, so many things you have to worry about. And then when you upload to YouTube as well as Rumble, they keep adding more and more things you got to check off. Is this for kids? Is this, et cetera, et cetera. And so it just kind of makes it harder to do. And I'm seriously considering just going live like you're doing and with the information I have, because, I mean, Lake County Board had a meeting, and there was a whole bunch of important issues a lot of people don't know about because we no longer have a newspaper that has a reporter that comes in there. We don't have any of the TV stations now coming in. We used to have Fox, we used to have Channel 9 come with cameras to the government meetings, and now they don't. So there's only one major media firm that has a dedicated reporter out here now on a beat, and that's Robert Jones with Channel 2, Wesh TV. And he's only started recently. I've met him a couple times, been interviewed once by him. But other than that, my biggest fear is that the current sites that pretend to be news sites don't give you news. They don't have reporters. They just publish press releases, and or they take op-eds from people who maybe have things that they want to get before the public. So there really is a need for that, and I just got to figure out a way to expand fiscal rangers and coverage without burning myself out.
Yeah, I get that. Perusing your website, I noticed that you had a pretty high up on your site there. This Far Reach Ranch is 2,500 home development, and what's happening over there in Tavares. Is there anything in particular you'd like people to know about that?
Well, sure. Probably for the last 10 years, I've attended different planning and zoning meetings of the county and some of the cities, and have followed the process with people fighting developments and developers pushing their development through, and almost always they win. But you can mitigate them if you have organized nearby residents that, for instance, don't want to have high density developments in there, like 50-foot wide lots like this Far Reach Ranch is proposing over by Deer Island. And it's just making them nuts because they already went through one big zoning fight with a development, and I videotaped a lot of that. And so they just already primed, and they've had one community meeting with the Far Reach Ranch developer, and a lot of issues were discussed, and they're going to move forward. The So it's going to be interesting because of the impact on traffic alone. Many people don't know that if you have a developer propose a development, they have to go through a process right now, and they have to check off certain things, like they have to have an environmental report. They have to have a traffic study. And my personal view, and I used to be an anti-corruption manager and a certified fraud examiner and Fortune 500 internal auditor, is that these things are cooked. They have been worn down over the years by lobbyists and everything so that they have a quote study. And then that study says, oh, there's no problem at the intersection of 561 and Highway 19. And we all know that's wrong. And that needs to be outed more. New laws are coming through now that reduce that impact, and people need to pay attention. They need to join a community group to watch what's happening, because the next thing you turn around, little orange signs pop up and it says, we're going to put in 2,500 homes next door, and they're high density. And that's what you don't want. For instance, out of Deer Island, a lot of those homes are 2 or 5 acres, and now they're proposing, the Far Reach Ranch is proposing about 300 home section on Shirley Shores Road, 50-foot wide lot. I mean, I'm in a lot that's wider than that, and in a small home, and that high density contributes to a lot of traffic that's would be on Shirley Shores Road, which is 1 lane each way. And people need to get involved. If you don't get involved now, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I kind of feel like people really need to be waking up right now. And my latest phrase, which I'm opening and closing our podcast with, is if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. So are you a regular attender at these county commission meetings?
I stopped going earlier this year. Sometimes by Christmas, I just get tired of it and I don't. And it's kind of a slower period, but now I'm back into it because now they're reviewing their proposed budgets. And my personal view is that every single government entity in this county should be using AI and should be improving their productivity by 15% and reducing staff levels. Over 50% of the corporations that have been measured, the large ones, they all have now a rule that if a department is coming back for a budget, they say, well, AI first, which means you got to tell me why you aren't using AI to do this instead of spending money on equipment or people, um, because we need to get more efficient government. Hopefully, Florida Doge, which is just ramping up under Chairman under the new CFO Blaise Ingolia. I, he just had a press release with Governor DeSantis yesterday, and is ramping up, looking at local governments like the counties and the cities, and they're going first after the ones where they've had a lot of complaints. I'm going to be following that because my background is operational auditing. I was Doge before there was a Doge, and finding $1 million issues. So we we've we've got to get on top of it. You've got to call or write your local Florida representatives, and I won't get into why they may not pay attention to you, but you need to start pressing for uh, procedures that will benefit the homeowners, like property tax control, uh, increases in budget spending, etc.
Do you have any personal interactions with any of the county commissioners? Do you know any of them personally enough to influence them?
Well, many years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago, I was watching all this, and we had a couple of pretty radical Democrats on the county board. And so I just got mad, and I had some savings, and I jumped into the race. And then right after me, this lady called Leslie Campione jumped into the race with about 3 times as much money and connected parents and everything else. And I said, okay, she's going to do better than I am. So I just started beating on the opponent and praising Leslie. So I've known Leslie since she ran for office. She is very good on the board. She's the chair. I was at the board meeting this week. I know all of them. Uh, so, and what's worse yet is probably they know me, so they see me coming and they start, going like this because I ask questions. That's what a retired auditor and a corruption guy does is he asks questions, and people don't like some questions.
Yeah, I get it. Mike, you're familiar with Leslie and a number of the others, Anthony Sabatini. Do you feel like these people are at all interested in what the average electorate, average citizen here in Lake County feels? What our opinions are?
My opinion is that they are influenced by a lot of different things. And I would suggest that they're very high on their list of priorities is making sure that they get funding out of Tallahassee. So when it comes to, like, for example, the legislature, as Vance is pointing out, the legislature has really constrained, and your word, Chuck, usurped the authority of city councils and county commissioners. And I've been, of course, then you have to say, well, why wouldn't the commissioners and the city council members push back against the state of Florida encroaching on their authority to run their cities and counties? And the answer is that if they push back against the state, then the state just responds with cutting off funding. And that's what they don't want. So I would say that, like, for example, you can just go through the list. And I think for the most part, if you consider the Lake County Board of County Commissioners as a whole, then I would suggest that they are pretty interested in the well-being of the citizens of Lake County. The problem that most Main Street Lake County citizens has is that their priority is money, is funding. And when you get the funding component involved in the big picture, then the average citizen typically loses out. And I'll, give this back to Chuck so you can see what Vance has to say about it.
Would you like to elaborate on that, or we got other issues we can discuss there, Vance?
Well, yeah, the intelligent conversations like the one that they had this week on septic tanks and a rule that they were going to propose to try and keep ahead of the state regulatory agency. And initially, the reports on social media were that the proposed ordinance would require that anybody that has a problem with their existing septic tank and they have to repair it, that instead they have to replace it with a new fancy expensive septic tank with pumps and all sorts of things and a $700 a year maintenance charge. And they finally backed off from that. They started by eliminating that requirement for replacing existing septics with a new expensive one. But they also then finally just dropped the whole issue for probably several months at least, and wait and see what the state does. The But they had a very good, wide-ranging discussion on that. Uh, the I have here. I go and I take notes. I can't.
Yeah, you got to work on your
You
lighting there, Vance.
can't see it. There we go. Okay, so anyway, when I go to these meetings, I take notes. I've got the whole agenda. I print out, well, the short one, the 13-page one, and I go over that a lot of issues and then follow up on them, like somebody gives PowerPoints, and there's a lot of useful information there. And did pretty good. They went until 3:30 earlier this week. Um, so that was a long meeting. And they didn't give the audience lunch either.
Really?
So that's something that needs to be fixed, Chairman.
Yeah. Little lunch for the people. Right, there you go.
That's right. All I got was a bag of. They threw this to me, Jimmy John's
Okay.
um,
Well, chips.
chips, but they're the ones that are really hot with jalapeno in it, and I can only eat one.
Yeah, keep everybody. Yeah, right there.
Maybe
you go.
that was a hidden message.
Okay. Well, before our time begins to slip away, I'm just gonna throw out a big wild one here. What is your greatest concern for Lake County at this present time? What has really, really got you going?
The traffic is getting worse and worse. There's Florida legislation, lobbyists, and laws that prevent the cities or the county from taking a lot of action that we all think they should be taking, like just put a moratorium on growth for say 5 years until the roads catch up. See, the roads are not wide enough. We are a county with all these lakes, and they can't widen a lot of the roads, and so it constrains traffic. And they really need to recognize that as a driving force, not say, well, anybody that's got land here has the right to develop it and put high density homes on it, which this just creates more traffic jams. And I think that's a very serious thing. The county board, chaired currently by Leslie Campione, is looking at and has already had meetings about moving to a charter county, which other people fight. But what it does is it gives them then more power to stand up to these developers and to the construction firms and to the landowners who all have lobbyists and keep pushing for unending development. And I moved here from Huntington Beach, California. And if you look at a map from Google, you'll see that it's just an entire grid of rooftops. That's all it is. And every community has a wall around it, 16 feet high. But they did, when they developed that, they had all the flat land and they could set aside right-of-ways before development got there that allowed for 4 lanes each way and a lot of collector roads. So the traffic wasn't too bad, but it's a lot of it. But here we don't have that. We just don't. And they need to find a way to stop these developers from putting in high density homes. And of course, some people want workforce housing, which is cheap and high density. but we don't have the space for the to handle the traffic. Um, and that's something that needs to be watched closely. The other thing probably is budgets. My view is that especially the cities, there are some of them that they just keep giving higher and higher raises to their employees. Like Tavares gave 6% to their police department, if I remember correctly, and other, and yet cost of living as a senior. We don't get that in Social Security or in cost of living increases. And we have to start cracking down on these people. We need to find a way, and maybe Doge is the way to restrict their constant spending. Um, Go ahead, Mike. Come on, throw in something on this.
Wow, that's a lot of material to cover right there. But, Vance, I think you'll agree with me. For me personally, I believe that because the county commissioners have to approve, well, I'm back to the county. You were talking about municipalities, but I don't care if it's a city council or the county commission. These boards are tasked with the responsibility of approving budgets. And I was talking with one of the county commissioners a week or so ago, which I've heard the same story from them for 15 years, that the county constitutional officers are elected, therefore we don't scrutinize their budgets. And I think that's just a load of crap. I think if somebody comes in and the Board of County Commissioners is responsible for approving a constitutional officer's budget, then they should deep dive into the budget, not to micromanage it, just to make sure there's no abuses in there. But I'm saying to you that even with the budget meetings and stuff like that they have, these county commissioners, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Vance, but they tell you that they really don't know how these people spend their money. And then they roll in asking for, double-digit increases to their budgets, which I think is just completely ludicrous. And I don't want to, get on the wrong track here. But if I was a sitting county commissioner and somebody came in and asked me for a significant, whether they asked for money or not, I would want to have a very good, solid working knowledge of how these people spend their money before I would approve their budget. Period. Vance.
Well, I agree totally. I have looked at the fact that there is no requirement that there be an operational audit of constitutional officers or even the cities. The county has a inspector general. We used to have a really good one who went off to another county and he went after stuff. And we had a board that would say, yeah, go ahead. They would give them permission to go do an audit of some kind of politically sensitive operation. But now we haven't heard, I have not heard from the inspector general that they have for 2 years. She never comes to meetings. She doesn't make any presentations. The board doesn't publish them as part of their agenda. And we really do need a review. The court, the county clerk, the other half of his title is comptroller. And you would think a comptroller would be concerned about costs and run what we in business would call cost accounting. And he does not do that. And he says, and I asked him point blank, how come you don't publish dashboards or anything showing the efficiencies of the county and the court clerk? And he says, well, it's not required by the legislation. And so that's what they use as a convenient thing, is that there's all sorts of holes. Like you can't, there's no way to recall a constitutional officer because it's not provided for, even though it is provided for county and city officials. So the constitutional officers are one, and actually I have on my list right now, I was writing one yesterday because Florida Doge is now getting more active, is to submit to them a case for them auditing the constitutional officers and the legislation that has all those loopholes in it.
Chuck, you mind if I jump in?
Sure, go right ahead.
So this is for me personally. I just said that the county commissioners do care about the well-being of the people, but the shortcoming of the county commissioners is that they really don't embrace their responsibilities, in my opinion. So, for example, I just wrote a paper called Land Use Equilibrium, and I delivered it over to all of the county commissioners. And I just told the commissioners that I felt it was that they were the optimal organization to oversee land use in the entire county, including in the municipalities, because obviously the planning and zoning ordinances that pass in these cities affects the other cities and the county as a whole. So that's my point on because this is another example of how if the Board of County Commissioners would step up and accept the responsibility as the overseer of what goes on in the counties, and we would not have a land use problem. And the same thing applies to the constitutional officers' budgets. If the county commission would step up and exercise their authority over the constitutional officers' budgets, things would go better, in my opinion. But in criticism of the county commission, they're very passive. Would you agree, Vance?
Yeah, there's the, two of the five, I think, do take action on things. Leslie Campione has constantly taken action on community issues. She goes out to these groups and she talks to them and she tries to come up with some sort of action that will help solve their problem, whether it's traffic or zoning or whatever. And Sean Parks also does get involved a lot in going to things, but the other three don't. They're just like lumps on this bench, and that's gone before that too. And so, like you say, well, gee, I wish this guy did something. Well, you got to tell him. Why don't you get out there and act? Where did you go last week to help citizens, whether it's on Far Reach Ranch or something in your community? And get some things going. And Leslie and Sean do initiate that. I kind of question some of the things Sean does, but at least he does act. And but the others don't. They just they react. They wait until there's something on the agenda, and then they react and they vote. And that's pretty much it, in my
Well,
opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the point is, Vance, that the commission acts as a whole. So you can take individual commissioners and you can, either, give them accolades or criticize them. But the fact of the matter is that the Board of County Commissioners has to act as a whole. If you can't get 3 out of 5 votes, then it doesn't happen. So my point to you would be that whenever somebody gets a job, as you pointed out on the clerk of the court and comptroller, right? He said, well, it's not required by the law, so I don't do it. So that means you do the minimum requirement of your job. And that would never fly in the private sector at all. And I don't expect our elected officials, who are very well compensated, by the way, for their objective to be to do the minimum. I expect them to be community leaders, and I expect them to manage our money, be good stewards of our money, and everything else that goes on in our county. These people should be leading, not flying below the radar, Vance.
Well, they ought to act on for the citizens and not the contractors and the developers.
I just said the same thing. Well, the contractors could be citizens too, and they have a certain amount of rights. But again, as I pointed out in my article, Land Use Equilibrium, there's a bundle of rights. It's not one right to do whatever you want with your property. There is a bundle of rights. And when people buy real estate, they buy real estate based on the land use and zoning that's in place at the time they acquire the property, with some minimal consideration for what might happen down the road. But I'm going to say this to you because I think it's really important, that these people are not entitled to amendments to the land use plan, Vance.
So if you don't mind jumping in here, we've got like a minute and a half left, actually, just a minute.
Let's go for an hour.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're all paying attention to the time. If you were to talk to the average citizen out there, what would you tell them they ought to do? I mean, are you involved in other organizations that kind of impact on Lake County politics that others should be involved in?
Well, the Lake County Republicans was recently taken over by a bunch of fake Republicans, what are called rhinos, or Republican name only. And so for people who are true conservative and grassroots, they need to look for other groups. And I lose track of the titles, but there's 3 or 4 of them. I'll put an article up on my blog at fiscalrangers.com that lists those groups that you can attend because they are doing a lot of the same things that we used to do in the Republican Party before the wannabe power mongers got in there, and they keep canceling meetings. The people that are controlling the official Republican Party of Lake County. So be aware that for grassroots Republicans, there is a whole underground of people that are still active, and you need to search them out. And I will publish those links on my blog later today.
Super, super. Mike, you have any closing comments tonight?
I think there's a lot more to talk about. We touched base on quite a few subjects this morning. So there's nothing more really to say about it that could be beneficial to the viewers. So I think we'll just have to wait until the next live stream, Chuck, and dive a little deeper into it then.
Super. Well, maybe, Vance, we can have you on again sometime.
I'm ready. I've got a list here. Well,
yeah.
doesn't show. But
in order to get through the lists, we all have to be paying attention to
like
time.
20
right?
things down.
There you go.
I like Excel spreadsheets, Vance. Take your notes and drop them into an Excel spreadsheet. You'll be happy. You'll get rid of that piece of paper. It'll sit on your hard drive, and you can pull it up whenever you want.
There you go. Well,
what makes you think I don't have 6 of those already?
I'm sure you do. Vance, just for the record, everybody, I love Vance Jochim. He's a major contributor to the community. It wouldn't be the same without him. His, analytics are necessary and priceless. Thank you.
Oh, can I just say, for people who want to be on my mailing list, send a request to fiscalrangers@gmail.com.
Okay, I wish we had that on your
fiscalrangers@gmail.com. Perfect.
There you go.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for tuning in to our twice-weekly live stream. And remember, again, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. There are people out there that want to rule over you. So, we'll see you next time. And meanwhile, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.